If any of these 10 traits apply to you, don't retire early. Just don't do it. You're setting yourself up for failure. That's how strongly I believe in these. And most of these traits, though, they don't apply if you're retiring at regular retirement age. I'm just talking about people that are retiring early. So here we go. What's number one? I've said this over and over on my channel. If you love your job, there's no reason to retire early, or just in general. Don't try and make happy better than happy. If you love your job, stick with it, man, as long as you want. When I got laid off from the music industry in 2010, I'd been with that job for 20 years and I loved it. I never would have retired early if I wasn't laid off from that job. The subsequent 3 jobs I had after that, couldn't stand them. Just couldn't stand them. That's why I retired early. But if you love your job, stick with it. Don't try and make happy better than happy can be. Number 2, if you are a type A personality and you have no second act planned for what you're going to do in retirement, don't ever retire early. Those are the type of people, and I am not. I'm a type Z. Z is in Z. I'm fine just hanging out. But those types of personalities, man, they got to have stuff to do. If you are one of them and you don't have a second act plan for yourself and you're retiring at 42, don't retire early. Again, you're setting yourself up for disaster. A lot of those people, they might be retired for a year. You're going back to work. Okay, I guess if you want to do it on a trial basis, fine. But unless you have something else to go to and you are one of those strong, highly capable people, a type A, don't retire early. Hey, for those of you who see me for the first time, my name is Duane, and I retired on my birthday at 59 with just over $500,000 about almost 3 years ago now. This is a retirement channel for people on moderate income. If you think you might like that, think about subscribing and like the video as well. Number 3, this is a big one. Now, for those of you that are married, you would hope to think that if you're going to retire early, you've already talked this over with your spouse. They're totally on board with it, whether they're still working or whether they're not. If they're not on board with your decision to retire early, by all means, do not retire early. I mean, people in retirement, that's one of the highest groups now as far as like getting divorced. You got to make sure that they are on the exact same page as you. Well, not exact, 90%, let's say, okay, of you and your decision to retire early. Because if they're not, you're just opening yourself up for a big, huge amount of conflict. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Number 4, if the vast majority of forget about vast. If the majority of your retirement income or savings is going to come from Social Security, don't retire early. Don't do it. Let's say you want to retire at 45. The top 35 years of your work history are what they take into account when determining Social Security. If that's going to be the bulk of your income coming in retirement, don't do it. Don't do it. Now, hopefully, as the fire community teaches, a lot of people act as if Social Security is not going to be there for them. If that's the case, great. But if your plan is to rely, yes, I know, you too? My Ravens, man, they're all about Social Security. They got it nailed down. If that's your plan, to rely a lot on Social Security, don't do it. Don't retire early. It's not for you. Wait. Just wait. Number 5, if you have young children and you aren't sure if you've saved enough yet, don't do it. Don't retire early. If it was just you and it doesn't work out, great. Hey, it's just you. You'll figure it out. If it's just you and your spouse, great. You'll figure it out. But if you have young kids and you want to retire at 46 and you're not totally sure your income will last you, don't do it. You're jeopardizing the quality of life of your young children. That's the last thing you want to do as a parent, right? The last thing. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Wait. Wait until they're older. You know, to me, something like that, unless you were 95 to 100% sure that your savings are going to last, that's a very selfish act, as far as I'm concerned, if you have young kids. Number 6. Now, this is for people who are retiring really early, in their 30s, in their, let's say, early 40s. If you don't have a thick skin, think twice about that, guys, girls, salamanders, toads. Think twice about that, because you're going to get a lot of feedback. It's like, who is this guy? Negative feedback. Who is this guy? You know, in some cases, I've read stories where they kind of treat you like you're a weird outcast, a weird freak. It's like, how can this guy retire early? Is there something wrong with him? Is he really telling us the full story? Man, I should have brought my water or my retirement vodka out here. Dry mouth. So don't do it unless you have thick skin, unless you are okay with criticism. You're going to get a lot of negative feedback if you retire real early, say at 38. So rethink that. Rethink that. Number 7, if you have no plan for retirement activities, hobbies of what you're going to do in retirement, don't retire early. Now, normal retire age, fine. You know, let's say you're 61, whatever, 65. Okay, that's normal retirement age. You'll figure out what you're going to do, what your hobbies are. But if you're retiring at 43 and you've got 40 to 45 years ahead of you and you don't know what you're going to do to fill up your time, this kind of goes along with a type A personality point. I would really, really think hard about, should I retire early? Might not be the way. I'm looking like a lizard now. Look at my lips because I'm so dry-mouthed. Pardon me. I would really think twice about that. I really would. You have to know, take some time before you retire to figure out what your hobbies are going to be, what you'd like to spend time on, especially for those people retiring at 42, 43. You probably were a hard driving person. And then all of a sudden, you're going to do nothing. You got to take that time before you retire, at least a couple of years, to figure out your hobbies, what you want to spend time on in retirement. Because believe me, when you're retired, it gets to noon some days and it feels like the full day already. Time expands when you retire. So make sure you got stuff to do. You know, I'm trying to do a video here. Okay, he's saying he's got all his hobbies. He doesn't need to listen to this crap. Number 8. If you are not 95% sure of your retirement plan and you plan on retiring early, do not retire. I'm sure you've gone on those online calculators, if you're anything like me, and they give you a confidence rating. You've got this amount, you want to last this long in retirement. Here's your confidence level. Usually if it's like 85 or 90%, you're good. But if you want to retire early, it's got to be up in the 95s. It really does, or above, or you're setting yourself up for disaster. Just don't do it if you're not sure. Just don't do it. Hold off. What's another 5 years for you until you're sure, right? Number 9, if you are in heavy debt, never, ever, did you hear me? Yes, he agrees, never retire early. If you're in retirement age, okay, I guess if you're 65 and you're still heavy in debt, go for it. But I've never believed in you have to be debt-free to retire. I wasn't. I had a small amount of debt, mostly credit card stuff. But then 6 months into my retirement, I bought a house, so now I have a mortgage. But if you're 43 and you still have student loans that you're paying back, other kinds of debt, if you're heavy in debt at 43, what are you going to do to pay that debt off once your income streams dry up? You going to rely on all retirement savings to do that? Again, that's a recipe for disaster in my mind. So if you're heavy in debt, do not, never, ever retire early. Number 10, if you have a mental illness, one of the worst things you could do is retire early. In retirement, you're naturally isolated, especially if you're single. Now, if you're married, okay, Go either way. If you're single and isolated, that's one of the worst things you can do if you have mental illness. Don't retire at 44 if you are struggling with mental illness. You're going to be isolated most of the days. That's the worst thing you can do if you are struggling with a mental illness, especially depression. Depression, best thing to do is get your mind off yourself onto other people and other things. If you're sitting in your house all day long when you're retired with heavy depression, not a good place to be. So there you go, guys. Those are my 10 traits for someone who should never retire early. Give me your comments. Let me know what you think. And as always, from the very chatty high desert, we got this.